it is not your mission. The getting the woman is not the mission. The mission is to get somebody who can help you with your own personal like way of walking in life. You know, they're not going to replace it.
For sure. For sure. Um,
So no
yeah.
matter
So,
what level, sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So like we were talking about, a lot of it's just about building purpose first, and I mean, even with me, I've mentioned it a couple times, where when I put it plain, I got dumped twice, 2 times in a row,
Hmm.
um, which now that I look back, I'm like, oof, that's a rough one. But 2 times in a row, by women when I was not on my purpose. When I look back, it's like it's because I wasn't on my shit.
Yeah,
Is why those things ended up the way they ended. Now, would those relationships have lasted? Would they have continue the way they're going? With the guy I am right now, I think probably not. They
mm-hmm.
probably still would have ended, but I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have been so probably so hurt by it or so caught up in it
Yeah,
if I had been on my purpose and been doing what I was supposed to be doing. Because by the outside looking in, I was doing really well. It's like one of the top trainers on Fort Carson at the base that I was training at, and people wasn't searching for clients. They were coming to me fully booked out. But if you would ask me, like, what do you want to do in the next 10 years? I'd be like, well, I'm gonna be wealthy. It's like, oh,
yeah.
cool. How you plan on doing that? I'm gonna be wealthy.
Right.
I didn't have a set plan. I didn't have a strategy for my life until I experienced those heartaches, those that pain of yeah, getting dumped. Especially when you think you kind of are moving around like you're the shit. You get dumped, then that hurts your ego a little bit.
Hmm.
Like, so you're showing up like that guy, and then women are like, no, you're not. It's just like,
Right. Right.
that can take that can swipe at your ego. But
Yeah.
until I experienced those things, it made me realize that it made me really focus in. Like, okay, I'm gonna focus in on me. I'm gonna focus in on my purpose. Just conversations I had even with a female cousin, like, well, she didn't see a future with you. And I was like, damn, I don't see a future with myself because I don't know what my future is. It's like, so no, yeah, that's not surprising. I'm
Yeah.
not surprised now.
Yeah. For sure. And it's because you can actually like stumble onto not your purpose, but well, I guess you can stumble onto your purpose, but when you start to put those things into place that will help you get to that point, it's definitely an attractive thing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I like what is his name? I can't remember the psychologist's name right now, but he wrote a really good book that we've talked about before. Uh, Relationship with or the value of others, but Orion Taraban. He's
Mhm.
a really good psychologist, and he talks about how everybody can make themselves more attractive, but what your goals and values are is that thing that can make you more attractive, like outside of the physical. I remember
Mhm.
when I was in college, I wasn't even trying to date because I had just lost two jobs and I had dropped out of college like 2 years previously. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to work and I'll be able to, it'll all work out. Again, not having a plan. But then when I lost those two jobs, there was nothing to like support me or still boost me up. So when I went back to school, I met my wife not too long after that. But and I was like, all right, I need to figure out what I'm going to do because I don't want to be in school forever. Like I was basically going back to a 4 year and I was out of shape. So I was like, all right, two things I know I can do is find a job, or three things: find a job, figure out what my classes are going to be looking like, and start going to the gym because I had free access at that point.
Mhm.
So, but those things, as I was starting to get my schedule together, like I would be mad if I was like 5 minutes off or something. I got in that much of a groove, and then the more I'm just improving myself, staying to myself, people started to come towards me. Like I would be like basically in the equivalent of a Denny's uniform, telling women like, no, I'm not interested. You know what I mean? It was kind of weird at the same time because I knew I was trying to figure out what my future was, and women were always going to be there.
Yeah.
They were always going to be around. So it's just like, you don't have to do that right now. Right now is like how I'm going to be able to figure out what my life looks like for the next 5 years.
Mhm. Yeah, man, and there are definitely signs, when guys are, the quote unquote drifter or the lost boys is a lot of time we call them.
Yeah.
When you're kind of drifting through life, even if you're, and here's the thing, man, it's like you don't have to be a hobo on a bus bench to be a drifter.
Right.
There are CEOs of Fortune 500 companies that are drifters. Is
Hmm.
like they're really good at one part of their life and really terrible at another part of life. Just because you are successful or making money in a certain sense does not mean you're on your purpose.
Yeah.
You
Could
know,
you
it means
imagine
you're
being
good at
good?
doing a job.
Right. But yeah, like
You know?
imagine being good. I can make six figures like it's nothing, but
Mhm.
I cannot keep a relationship for shit. Like, how is
Right.
that? How
Facts.
is that possible?
Facts. And when you're not, man, there are definitely signs because we tend to overdo. It's like I look back at it, it's like when I was in those moments where I thought I was on my grind, and then I got into the relationship, and over time, I started taking my focus away from my training, focus
Hmm.
away from honing my craft, becoming the best at what I was doing,
Hmm.
because it was easy. So I was like, oh, I could put a little focus on this, and then turn around and start putting more and more of my focus into this relationship, onto
Right.
this woman, doing these things. And that's when you start over texting. You start,
Yeah.
spending way too much time. It's like, um, aren't you supposed to be like, did you text your client back? It's like, oh, I'll text him back after we have, go see this movie or we do this thing. You
Right.
start putting certain stuff on the back burner and making her the priority. And as much as women say they want to be the priority, they do not. They do
Yeah.
not want to be the number. Okay, I'll put it this way: they do not want to be your number one priority. They want to be
Hmm.
a priority in your life, but they don't want to be your number one priority, because if they're your
Yeah.
number one priority versus your purpose, the thing you're supposed to be focusing the majority of your energy on, they're gonna get tired of you real quick. They're like,
Yeah.
he doesn't have anything else to focus on. He's always with me. That's when women start saying like, hey, why don't you hang with your friends? Or I'll call you back, and they wait hours, or they text you back hours later, and
Yeah.
she wasn't doing shit.
Yeah.
It's just like they really start seeing that in you, that it's like it almost becomes like uh, a smell of desperateness to
Neediness.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Desperation for
yeah,
sure.
exactly. It's like you become needy. You're just like, why are you always up on me? Why are you always here? Don't you gotta go to work?
Right. Right.
That kind of thing. Because
Yeah.
you start overdoing, because you're putting men have to put their energy towards something. We have
Hmm.
to. We're built that way. If we're not putting our energy towards our purpose, a lot of times we will go find a woman to put our energy towards, to put our focus towards, or we'll find a vice, whether it be alcohol or drugs or whatever it may be. We will put all of our energy and attention onto something. It
Yeah.
might as well be your purpose.